Test, test, test. That is the sound of a distracted, divided, and dead American until they hear. Battle for freedom, triggering change, one heartbeat at a time. Welcome, everyone. I'm your host, Watson Prunier from Battle for Freedom on Mojo 50 Radio, and I'm glad that you're joining me as we close out this week. It is Friday, and it is Fearfully Friday. And if those of you who are watching on Facebook, on social media, yes, Linda, if you decided to go to facebook.com/Mojo50 Radio, she basically says, thank God that it is Friday. Yes, thank God it's Friday. But sometimes I think we get to the end of the week and we are fearful that we're fearfully that it's Friday. Like, is this my weekend? Is this my chance to get away? Is this my chance to relax and enjoy everything that means pleasure this whole weekend? I'm not working. I'm not doing anything. Well, some of us still have to continue to work on the weekends, but good morning, Linda, Lep, Heidi. Appreciative of every last one of you being part of the program today. So let's get into this whole idea of Fearfully Friday, no more pins and needles. You know, we get to the throughout our whole week, life could be very crazy. I don't know what it's like for you, but I know that most of us, if we're living, if we're breathing, good morning, Curtis, we have drama throughout the week. Thank you, Ginger, for joining as well, too. We have a lot of drama, and if you really want to hear about drama, go to mojo50.com and basically click the button schedule and listen to all the hosts, all the shows that are available to you on this network as we sit here and we continue to have fun. We use the First Amendment and we use our imagination in ways that will blow your mind. I see Lisa and Paige have joined as well, too. So thank you so much for being part of this and just being part of this experience. My website is battle4freedom.com, and I really appreciate every last one of you who wants to be part of this program and part of the network, part of the Mojo 50 family. Share it out with as many people as you possibly can as we go through here. But, you know, if you're part of the Mojo 50 family, there's no way on earth, on this green earth, that I can do anything and not talk about American Pride Roasters coffee.
That's it. I've hit the snooze button a dozen times, and now I have to finally get going. But I'm not going to do this day right if I don't start it off with a cup of American Pride Roasters coffee, the official coffee of Mojo 50 Radio. But I'm not going to lie to you. They have a wide variety of blends, but I'm leaning towards the one that's named after me, Watson's White Chocolate Caramel. You know what? It sounds as good as those words that just rolled off of my mouth. Listen, get it today. AmericanPrideRoasters.com. Tell them that Watson from Battle for Freedom sent you, and you want Watson's White Chocolate Caramel Blend to start your day off. Join American Pride Roasters Coffee and Mojo 50 Radio, and most important, Battle for Freedom, as we celebrate the best coffee in the nation. American Pride Roasters.
Yes, American Pride Roasters coffee. People have said that in the timeline it is good coffee. It is great coffee, especially when you want to start your day off. You're trying to get into that mode of. I love how we get to Fridays and we have the TGIFs and everything like that, and it's so funny because of the fact that someone wants me to bring back the puppy. Well, I think that sometimes we approach Fridays like this. We approach Fridays like this, that we're so concerned about what is it going to look like, and we are nowhere near ready for the weekend because we're constantly living in fear. Folks, we have to do this. We have to do this better because if we don't, Let me give you this look at his face. I think sometimes we approach Fridays like this, that we're so nervous. We're like, is it here? Is this my chance? Is this my chance to enjoy and get away from the madness and get away from the craziness? Yeah, it could be. I don't know. Sometimes I love this one passage. There's one passage in the Word of God that talks about the whole idea is that God does not give us a spirit of fear, but of power and love and a sound mind. So as we come into this weekend, folks, I know there's a lot of topics we're going to talk about. I know this whole week has been completely crazy. Dow up, the Dow not. The markets are going crazy. Now we're worrying about inflation. Now we're worrying about being censored. Now we're worried about more government overregulation and just control in our lives. So we're afraid. Sometimes we're afraid. I think that since the age of COVID and the era of COVID, we have been living more fearful that we can't do anything. And sadly, we have a lot of friends, family members, and even fellow Americans who are trapped in fear, constantly walking on pins and needles. This mask mandate that's being lifted in many states is basically making life miserable. Lockdowns, businesses that can't, businesses can't function, the ones who still have the mandates, and there's a lot of hatred, and especially too, you have to be careful. Many of us are being fearful of what we can and what we can't say on social media because of the fact that we're afraid of being shadow banned, fact checked, or even suspended because of the fact that all we did was share the truth. So we live in fear. We have these puppy eyes, like Darby. Was it Darby from Harry Potter? That we walk around looking like Darby from or is it Darby? I can't remember his name from Darby, the little monster, the little weakling, the little sickly looking troll or whatever he is. We have that look about whether or not we can do anything on social media. And I'm saying that it's no more pins and needles, okay? It's time to put away the pins and needles, and it's time to start living. Also, I want you to do me a favor. If you can, I have a good friend who's going to be going into surgery in about 50 minutes. He's getting back surgery. So if you could lift up my buddy Keith in prayer, I would really appreciate your prayers. If you could pray for my buddy Keith and pray for his wife too, who unfortunately, because of COVID and the fears of COVID, she's not even allowed to be in the hospital with him while he's going through the surgery. So she'll be contacted when she can come and pick him up from the hospital. So please keep my buddy in prayer. Keep Keith in your prayers if you can. Because just the whole idea of being separated from your spouse when they're going through such a critical surgery, that we put people's lives on edge. But she's a believer, he's a believer, they're trusting God, and I'm trusting God as well too. And I thank every last one of you who trust God and will be part of this as well. But there's this whole idea that in this woke culture, in this love trumps hate culture, we have to walk on pins and needles. We have to be fearful of what we say because we are afraid that at any moment we may trigger somebody, because the trigonometry or whatever you want to call it, or triggerology is probably the most visited and viewed ideology wreaking havoc across the landscape. And so we were told that the last 4 years, you know what? Because I heard this from Andrew Coppins yesterday, he comes on at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday, with critical thinking. So you could thank him for this new soundbite that I actually have on my mixer, because there's no way that I could actually do this without the inspiration that I got from Andrew Coppins. And take a listen to this.
We have to restore the soul of this country, and I'm counting on all of you to be part of that. But I'm not joking when I say this. If you're ever working with me and I hear you treat another colleague with disrespect, talk down to someone, I promise you I will fire you on the spot. on the spot. No ifs, ands, or buts. Everybody is entitled to be treated with decency and dignity. That's been missing in a big way the last 4 years. The last thing we need is the Neanderthal thinking that in the meantime everything's fine, take off your mask. You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you. Everybody is entitled to be treated with decency and dignity.
So as we sit here, thank you, Andrew Coppins, for coming up with that and giving me the inspiration on that. And even my wife talked about it, and we laughed. So even my wife gets some credit on that, on the creation of that little audio blurb, because of the fact that you look at the people who are telling us to live in fear because we're the ones who've been wrapped up in hatred. We're the ones who have been wrapped up in insensitivity. We're the ones who have too much, and it's time for us to share the love, or trying to operate in a spirit of love. Well, I dare say to you that love has been lacking severely in those agents who say that they want peace, they want unity, and so much more in our country, in our society, and in our world. So hypocritical as we watch this stuff. You know, sometimes we operate in fear because we don't know what we're going to be condemned on, because if we operate according to their standards, then we get condemned on their standards, or we don't live up to our standards, but they're not held to our standards. It makes life difficult because we feel like we're walking on pins and needles or on eggshells. Because honestly, if you look at this, the woke movement, the woke theology, this whole idea of love and happy farting unicorns has been nothing but abusive. The language has been abusive. The nature of this, the ideology of woke theology, has been nothing but abusive, as they've sought to end the reigns of abuse in our culture. Abuse via racism and sexism, or any other different matter or way. They seem to end and want to put an end to the hatred that comes out of these different things while committing the very sins that they say they despise. So we sit there wondering, well, when do I get a chance to live hypocritically? When do I get a chance to do what you're doing and not be condemned for it? That's the thing about it. We shouldn't be looking for that opportunity, folks. See, that's my thing. We shouldn't be looking for an opportunity to live like they are, because of the fact that their lifestyle is sinful. It's their patterns are troubling. It's a nightmare. If we try and live up to their standards or live down to their standards, we become just like them. It's interesting, as I think about this now. My morning passage this morning on Facebook, let me go to my morning passage this morning here, as it is sinful. It is crazy. As we look at what they're doing, and this was a scripture passage that hit me this morning. Romans chapter 6, verses 1 through 4. What shall we say then? Are we to continue in sin that grace may abound? By no means. How can we who died to sin still live in it? Do you not know that all of us who have been baptized into Christ Jesus were baptized into his death? We were buried, therefore, with him by baptism into death, in order that just as Christ was raised from the dead by the glory of the Father, we too might walk in newness of life. See, I think that the problem that we run into in the midst of this is we get so angry that we want to be like the rest of them. We want to do what they're doing, and then we get angry when we can't do what they're doing. And it's like, yes, I know that they're not living up to the standard. Yes, I know that they're being hypocritical. And so we feel like because we want to do the evils and get away with the evils that they're getting away with, we're going to do everything that we can to whine and cry and be angry that we can't follow their steps. I mean, seriously, when you sit here and you look at the whole idea that Biden has the audacity to say that this country has needed love, and because all we have had is no respect for the last 4 years, your party spent 4 years in hatred trying to impeach a president to basically to nullify the result of the 2016 election, and you basically made whiteness, you made the term white the most offensive term, far greater than anything that you can ever imagine. That the terms of racism is, oh my goodness, let me find this guy because he's Yug. He said this today, and I have to share this because of the fact that the pins and needles, oh my goodness, you want to talk about the whole idea of the craziness. So this is what Yug said today. He says, exactly when did accuracy become acrimony, and honesty become hate, and responsibility become racist, and truth become travesty? As you sit here, and yes, he loves to alliterate. He's a pastor, and I appreciate what he does here because it's fostering this level of thinking. Because somehow, some way, being a truth teller is now it's a form of hatred. It's a form of just vile. How dare you speak that? How dare you? Now, mind you, the very people who are telling us that we're fact checkers, but what the facts that they present forward are full of hate, because all we had for the last 4 years, Mr. President, my president, Joe Biden, is we've had hatred that basically that they hate anything white, they hate anything Republican, they hate anything Trump oriented, they hate anything that is patriotic, they hate anything that's Christian. That when we try and tell you the accuracy and the truth of God's word, don't be so hateful. Don't put me into that subjugation and that archaic and that Neanderthalish book. I want to follow that stuff, honey. If we've had two genders for the last gazillion years, and now we're changing everything. You're telling me that I must teach 1 + 1 is 2 over here, but now I must change the binary that we've had for so long. We now, when you look at, because I saw something, and nothing, and hear me when I say this. I have no hatred towards anyone who's in the community of transitioning individuals. I have zero hatred. But when you tell me that I'm unloving because I don't subscribe to your ideology, to your basis of truth, you're basically telling me that your truth is far superior to my truth. Is that not the very thing that you accuse me of doing? If I pose my Christian faith, if I share my Christian faith, that truth is unloving, and that truth is not acceptable when we say that all truth is relative and all truth is experiential and advantageous to everyone, whoever wants to believe. So if someone can change the nature of their gender, if someone can change how they see or perceive themselves, and that the truth is based onto their disposition, onto their presuppositions, or whatever position that they want to take, so then why am I robbed, or why are other individuals robbed from also taking a position or presupposition or disposition on their facts and truth? See, this is the problem as we sit here and we look at this and we embrace this insanity that all truth is relative and everybody's truth can be accepted. It's a lie, because that everybody's truth can be accepted. That if that's the case, then that means that there's no longer any tests, there are no longer any assignments in any college, in any institution of learning, because if truth can be changed according to the whims of the individual, that means that every child who takes a test should get 100, should get an A. Actually, a child should get, I can say then, if I can transition my gender, if I can transition my identity, if I can choose those things, then I choose to be a PhD, an astrophysicist right now with a doctorate, with a doctorate in astrophysiology or astrophysics. If we can change this thing, because these are the questions that we must ask if we're going to entertain these ideologies that are wreaked in nothing but chaos and misinformation. If we're going to sit there and say that you're full of hatred, because you want to point out some truth. Yeah, you can say that that's a glob, but that's still a life. If it has a heartbeat, it is a life that's in the womb. Okay, let's be honest about this. If you destroy a boiled the egg of a bald eagle, we could turn around and be in jail for 20 plus years, if not life. So why is it that a life that's in an egg is recognized as value, but a life that's in the egg, that's in the womb of a woman, it has no value? I'm not being hateful, just being honest. And responsibility becomes racist. Yeah. Because of the fact that there are people who have chosen to live responsible lives, whether they're white or black, because if you're black and you're living responsible, if you're talking proper, if you're managing your finances, if you get an education, if you work a job, you're racist. If you want to pay your bills, if you want to pay your bills off, if you want to send your kids through school, no school loans, you save up, you do all these things, you live within your means, you're now racist because you're just like one of those white people who have white privilege. Huh? It's time for us. It's time for us to walk away from this, because honestly, earlier in the week I talked about the whole idea of navigating in 2021. It's barely navigating in the next 5 seconds, because you don't know who you're going to offend. You don't know who you're going to trigger. You don't know who's going to be upset because you decide to be honest and they want to live in a lie. And some of us want to live in a lie. I lost people because this 1 week ago, I started exposing the truth that Trump is nothing but a cancer to our culture and society if he doesn't humble himself and step off the scene. The Republican Party is doomed as long as Trump's thumbprint is on the conservative movement, the Republican Party, and anything that would try to bring balance and normalcy back to our country. I was unfriended by people. That's fine. That's your choice. That in no way have I come to the point where I am now in a tragic state of feel completely abandoned because we don't agree. If you don't agree, that's fine. That's your choice. So be it. Do as you feel. Do as you need to do. That is your choice. But it's funny because I sat here talking about the reality of Trump being an idol, Trump being worshipped, and then we get a 6-foot statue of him in CPAC made of gold. You can't write stuff better than that. I had no idea that was coming up. And ironically, the statue wasn't made in Mexico. It was made in China. Oh, and then here it is. The truth became travesty. That was the last one from Yug. When truth became travesty. Oh, yes, Kathy. They confused racism with prejudice. And see, but you have to understand, what's the word for it? I want to take it even further back than prejudice. Discriminating. You remember, at one point, people were looked at with respect because they had discriminating taste. They chose wisely who they would associate with, because sometimes you hang around the wrong people, you get labeled wrong. You get labeled incorrectly. So as we sit here watching this thing unfold before our eyes, it's time for us to stop living in these lies and be truthful and move away from walking on eggshells. Truth becoming travesty. It's a travesty if we don't want to hear the truth. It's a travesty. And I decided, it was me. I decided I was going to respond in an alliterative manner as well. Because I said to him, I responded, I see your alliteration and raise this accommodation. Hey, listen, don't blame me. You blame Young. He started it. When acrimony became advantageously adjustable. When hate became hierarchically hypocritical. And when racist became regurgitable. Yeah, I made up a word. That's another thing that preachers can do is they can make up words and it's completely accepted. So get over yourself if you don't like me. And then when travesty became tragically transitional, transferable, and traditional. Well, Lep, you have a right to disagree with me. Guess what? You know what? There's no firing squad for you disagreeing with me. The problem is that the Republican Party and the Democrat Party are identically the same. Here's the concern that I have with just on the issue of Trump. I think that there are great qualities he has as a leader, and I will not remove that away from him. But there are some moral issues that continue to block his ability to be even a better leader, a greater leader that this country, this nation needed and needs. And until he gets to that point of humbling himself like the rest of the nation wants to humble themselves and pray, we're lost out. And it's not going to be a good thing. It's not going to be a good picture. Thank you for keeping that and sharing. Keep sharing, folks. I really appreciate you. I'm your host, Watson Prunier from Battle for Freedom. Let's go to a break, and we'll get back to being Fearfully Friday on the flip side. Freedom of speech attacked by companies of big tech. They think they're balanced in how they show respect. When will they respect what it means to be free? Why does big tech pick on people like me? People use copyright for things now long forgotten. Authors and families are dead, bodies are rotten. Some try to own something meant to be free. Why does big tech pick on people like me? This from the guise of legal distribution. Buy one's flying planes to fight carbon pollution. Why don't they see their own hypocrisy? Why does big tech pick on people like me? I'm just posting funny memes and songs that make me glad. But censorship by big tech is making me so mad. Don't post on COVID or election fraud, even though their data is seriously flawed, or you'll be shut down like electricity. Why does big tech pick on people like me? Then there's the silence of those who say me too, ignoring liberal victims whose claims are so true. But if I dare say so, it's strike 1, 2, and 3. Why does big tech pick on people like me? So no more posts from me, nor broadcast galore. They really want to just show me the door. Gone are the days when we're happy and free. Why does big tech pick on people like me? I'm just posting funny memes and songs that make me glad. But censorship by big tech is making me so mad. Folks, my name is Watson Prunier. I'm host of Battle for Freedom on Mojo5 Radio, and have too much fun here as we laugh and we have fun with this thing here. So those of you who are maybe listening to this on iHeartRadio or via podcast, one of the things that you get a chance, if you're not watching this on Facebook, there's a little jingle that I've been able to put together on the 2-minute break between the different segments. And for those of you who enjoyed it, just understand that I think I'm going to start making the full-blown version of the songs and upload them to YouTube, because I have a very funny one for you next week. So I might not be able to push out one every week, but I try to work on doing this because this is some of the fun that we get a chance to enjoy doing here on Mojo5 Radio, on Battle for Freedom, and it's just part of who I am, and I love being that silly. Oh, you will not believe the one that's coming up next week. Just pray for me that I can actually get the video put together and ready for next week, okay? That's all I ask that you do. And what I'll do is, for those, if you get it, if you miss it, what I will do is on the second break, in the second segment next week, I will play the whole song. That's so that if you are listening, you'll get a chance to listen to it if you don't have a chance to look on YouTube. But let's get back to this whole idea of Fearfully Friday and the whole idea of no more pins and needles. Now, if you want to talk about pins and needles, I don't know if any of you have heard about it, but Iceland has been having some serious volcanic activity. So much so that people are living, honestly, in fear. As bad as it is, and we would hope that things would get better. I saw this. I was like, dang, I didn't. There's volcanic activity, and then there's like, holy cow, I can't believe that this is and earthquakes. Volcanic eruption on Iceland could be imminent after more than 18,000 earthquakes hits the island in the past week alone, authorities warn. Icelandic meteorological office confirmed more than 18,000 earthquakes occurring within the last week. Seismic activity is centered around the Reykjanes Peninsula. Reykjanes Peninsula in southwest Iceland, just south of the capital of Reykjavik. Yeah, they have very unique names or unique words in Iceland. And just as I ask you to pray for my friend Keith, please keep the people in Iceland in your prayers as well, because that doesn't look like it's going to be something comfortable for them to endure. So please, let's keep them lifted up. And if you can, I can't remember if I did this one or not, but let's go to New Life Holistic, because I'm thinking whoever is in Iceland and they get away from the craziness may need some biofeedback therapy.
Does your mind seem like it often shuts down before it even starts? Sounds like you need to detox to improve your health in body, mind, and spirit. I'd like to tell you about New Life Holistic. It is an amazing therapy process that uses neurofeedback and biofeedback for many issues that ails everyone. New Life's method and approach to health, balance, energy, and vitality is what sets it apart from anything you have experienced ever before. Call 1-833-4-BIO-LIFE and tell them Watson from Battle4Freedom has sent you. One more thing. Give them the code MOJO50 and save $50 off of your first session. The consult is free. New Life Holistic.
Yes, get out New Life Holistic to as many people as you possibly can. And if I'm hearing this correct, there's some really great things coming down the pike for New Life Holistic, and really appreciate if you give them a ring, especially for those who need some help and those who need to recover. One more thing that I want you to go through, it is also, this is another one I want you to take a listen to.
When the world is going to hell in a handbasket, you need rugged. You need strong. You need durable. You need Cat coolers. These are the best coolers on the market in 27, 55, and 88 quart. Go to catcoolers.com and give them the code Watson to save 10% on your purchase. Don't settle for those substandard containers that melt, leak, and destroy your memorable moments. Tell them that Watson from Battle4Freedom sent you. Cat coolers.
Yes, tell them Watson from Battle4Freedom sent you. Cat coolers. Send it to as many people as you possibly can, because as hey, listen. Oh my goodness, one of my vendors yesterday in the middle of a conversation. So they're from the New England area, and we get a chance to laugh at a lot of different things. I was talking about the weather out there. And he was telling me, I don't know if you've ever heard of this, because as we're eager, spring is right around the corner and everything like that. A lot of us we're just waiting for the better weather to get here. And he shared this hilarious thing with me about the that there's 12 seasons of yes. 12 seasons in England. And so here it is. It says New England actually has 12 seasons. There's winter, and then he says this is where we are right about now, called Fool's Spring, second winter, Spring of Deception, third winter, the pollinating, actual spring, summer, Hell's Front Porch, false fall, second summer, actual fall. In that series. And I just had to laugh because honestly, we had some beautiful weather last weekend, and then all of a sudden the cold front came right back in. And I know it's like, okay, is this the moment that we put away our sweaters, we put away our heavy coats, and we can start pulling out the shorts and spending a little bit more time outside? I don't know. We'll see. Just be prepared for the worst case scenario, please, because I don't know what this week. We may have better weekend this weekend. We may have better weather next week. But be prepared to it's just regardless of whatever the weather is like, just start living. But I want to hit something that Carrie said in the timeline as we made a reference to Trump, as I made a reference to Trump in the first segment. He says he was a businessman. He failed at listening to his common sense employees, and that was part of his downfall. Agreed. See, one of the things that a lot of individuals, in 2016, I had my issues with Trump because of his multiple bankruptcies. I understand bankruptcy, and that happens. That life happens. Okay, I'll give you one. I'll give you one bankruptcy. But when you do multiple bankruptcies and the allegations, if proven true, is that the people that were doing the work for him, that he actually he filed bankruptcy because he didn't want to pay. He didn't want to pay. And these were minority businesses, potentially run by blacks or women, Hispanics, that these businesses that worked for Trump, he used the system to defraud them. How it's for those of you who hate me and unfriend me because you don't want to hear the truth, how do you handle that? How do you deal with that? I'm not walking on pins and needles anymore. If you want to worship Trump, understand this. Deal with the consequences that comes with when the revelations and the truth comes out about your false God. Period. And if you think I'm here to be a mouthpiece for Trump, you're wrong. He was my president, and I appreciated him as my president. I prayed for him as my president. I wanted the best for him as my president. But it's just as much as we're going to hold Joe Biden accountable for his actions and when he does stuff like this.
We have to restore the soul of this country, and I'm counting on all of you to be part of that. But I'm not joking when I say this. If you're ever working with me and I hear you treat another colleague with disrespect, talk down to someone, I promise you I will fire you on the spot. On the spot. No ifs, ands, or buts. Everybody is entitled to be treated with decency and dignity. That's been missing in a big way the last 4 years. The last thing we need is the Neanderthal thinking that in the meantime everything's fine, take off your mask. You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you. Everybody is entitled to be treated with decency and dignity.
It is you sit here and want to hold Joe Biden accountable for his words, for his actions. If you sit there and remain silent to the words and actions of Trump, I dare say you are part of the problem. Don't hold Biden, don't hold Democrats to a standard you refuse to hold Trump. Because if you didn't, or if you refuse to, if he is your God that you worship like people worship Biden, that people worship Pelosi, that people worship Obama, no different. I'm not walking on pins and needles. I have not walked on pins and needles. Understand this. Because I since day one, Battle for Freedom is the idea of freeing us from our perspectives and mindsets that believe that we're going to walk in a manner to hold people to a certain level of standards that we want ourselves live to. Freedom of speech. As much as we don't like the censorship, as much as we don't like what big tech, and even as I make my jingles on this, as much as we don't like this, we don't want Christian bakers being fined or being incapable of living the way that they want to or doing whatever they want to with their business. But then we have the nerve to tell that Facebook must live up to that same standard that we want to give. Facebook can't live to the same freedoms that we want to give the Christian baker. Come on. No, pins and needles are gone because that's what many of you may not like me because I'm willing to point out when we're being hypocrites. We walk away and we move away from being hypocrites where we sit there saying that we don't like the speech of certain people, but we turn around and we either carry on in that speech or we give hearty approval and support to the people who give that very speech that we don't like. We didn't like when Obama spent money, when Obama spent $10 trillion in 8 years, but we remained silent when Trump spent $7 trillion in 4. Hypocrites. But hey, yeah, because I got to go back to what Yug said. That truth is travesty. It's a travesty that I point out the major problems and character flaws with our former president, and that we don't need that back we don't need that level of dysfunctionality back in government or even and now I understand why some of my coworkers talked about the whole idea is that there are just issues about Trump that I won't go as far as my friend who said that there's nothing redeemable about Trump, because that statement in and of itself is completely wrong. But you hear this. Many of us right now have this language and this attitude that there's nothing redeemable about the Democrat Party. We don't want to be called deplorables, but we call them deplorables. We don't sit there and we don't want to be ridiculed, maligned, or even spoken to condescendingly, but we do the same thing back to them. Hypocrisies of hypocrisies. It's time for us to stop. Time for us to stop. Well, they're supporting abortion. They're supporting child pedophilia and all this stuff. When I tell you God hates all sin, read Psalm 5:5. Read Habakkuk 1:13. Read John 19:30 when Jesus says it is finished. Why? Because he didn't just die for the sins of racism, the sins of greed, the sins of adultery, the sins of Democrats, and the sins of Republicans. He died for all sin. And we need to get back into this moment where we appreciate that, we live according to that, and we start holding everyone accountable, even the people that we adore. My wife and my kids will call me out. I may not like it, but my wife and kids will call me out when I'm doing something that I shouldn't be doing, or I could be doing something more productive than wasting my time on something else. So if I'm not above being called out, and there are tons of people not above being called out, who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? I'm not walking on pins and needles. The show's called Battle for Freedom. Battle for Freedom. And I'm trying to free us, myself included, from bad thinking, bad living that does not allow us to be free. I think I'm going to be living in fear that I can't say what I want to say on my particular program? Came to the wrong show. Check yourself. Please. Check yourself. Sorry, let's get on to some more things. This one was see, because this is what happens when we get into this culture of I'm being a victim. I'm always being what did I say on his thing here? I got to go back to that for a second here. What did I say when I was looking at Yug's page when being a victim is advantageous? When you sit here and you look at the idea of, it's a travesty to share the truth. When hate became hierarchically hypocritical. I want to go back to that. Yeah. When we put hierarchy, their sin's worse than ours. You show me where that in the Bible that God holds that standard. He says God says that homosexuality is an abomination. I gotta go back to this whole thing. Homosexuality, lying, adultery, stealing, killing, coveting, all sin. All sin. And when we sit there and we put hierarchy, or we put this hypocritical hierarchy on what sins offends God more, or what's more offensive to God, you've completely missed the point of the cross. Jesus didn't wince for racism on the cross like, oh God, I'm dying for homosexuality and racism right now. They really, really, really hurt. What kind of thinking? You have not, and we have abandoned common sense when we sit there and we now compartmentalize the cross. We compartmentalize Christianity. We compartmentalize holiness. And we compartmentalize character. We were forced to put in a white person. Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall revealed Paramount Pictures made them cast Louis Anderson in original Coming to America. Probably one of the funniest movies in one of the funniest movies in our history, Coming to America. So many different things that are in there. Let your soul glow. I cannot hit that note. I don't care how much tea I drink. I will not be able to hit that soul glow note. But you sit here and I'm thinking, okay, we're now rising out of lockdowns and so much more, and we have a chance to actually contribute back to making things successful. And now Eddie Murphy, shame on you. Arsenio Hall, shame on you. You now talk. How many years later? 1988. So that was what, 23 years ago? 23 years ago. And you guys are sitting here talking about racism, Paramount Pictures. Shame on you, Eddie Murphy. Shame on you, Arsenio Hall. That you guys are even going to entertain that. You were given a chance to do something and you made so many people laugh. Black, white, I don't care what you are. You'll find out that Coming to America is probably one of the most celebrated and laughed upon movies that you can ever find. But they figured out a way to make even Coming to America racist. Come on. You were given a chance. Right now, you are sitting here. If you sit here and get on Paramount about having Louis Gohmert, no, Louis Anderson in this movie, and you remain silent to all the other things, because if you're angry with them saying you couldn't do the movie without a white person, then you should also be angry. And if Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall, if you don't have issues with affirmative action, and you went out on Front Street and talked about Paramount Pictures demanding that you have a white character in the show, you are hypocrites. Hypocrites! I sit there and I look at this. You have to understand, the culture of fear, the culture of being a victim is so rampant that they'll do anything that they can. They will look in every opportunity to find something racist, find something sexist, find something homophobic, find something xenophobic, find some level of hate that you can now claim to be a victim, because that's the problem. Is we can't move or work without getting so crazy about who's going to be offended. Some people actually go out of their way looking for the offense. Some people go out of their way to create the offense. I saw this article. I'm not even going to show you the picture because I don't want to consider shaming somebody here. But here it is. Size 22 model who found love with a man who is 176 pounds lighter insists they are proud of their mixed weight relationship despite facing vile hatred from online trolls. Leah Stanley, 32, from Vermont, met Dan, 35, from New York on a dating app in August of 2019. They moved in together less than a year later. Leah who wears a size 22 and weighs 176 pounds more than her tree surgeon beau, She admitted that they used to be self-conscious about her weight, but her newfound confidence has led her to become a plus-size model. If you are obsessed with what people think about you online, the problem isn't the people who are making fun of you online. The problem is you. If we allow ourselves to be defined by what people say, or if they agree or not disagree with us online, the problem is in us. We got to do. Oh well, they hate me because of my weight. They hate me because of my color. They hate me because of my gender. They hate me because of who I love. They hate me because of my pet. They hate me because of my job. You are so fixated on hate. This is how bad it is. If all you want to do is focus on how you're a victim, you will always find an opportunity to be a victim. If you always, here's another one I saw. I wanted to talk about this one yesterday, but I'm going to talk about this one today. This is annoying. So here it is. This is, let me find this one because this one is downright cray-cray. This one's downright cray-cray because it just goes on to the idea that there's organizations that spend their time trying to find haters against the people that they support. And it's really close to home here, folks. This one hits really close to home here. Indianapolis porn star and rapper 34 is charged with the murder of a videographer 39 after he targeted members of the LGBTQ community through dating apps to rob. Diabolic Paris Johnson, 34, is accused of shooting dead Joshua J. Smelzer, 39, inside the victim's home in Detroit back in September. Johnson is also accused of carrying out a separate armed robbery of a 26-year-old man at a hotel in Detroit suburb of Dearborn 4 days earlier. Both victims are members of the LGBT community and were located and targeted by the suspect through online dating apps, the authorities said. And you sit here and you look at this because there's an organization that checks out and figures out that this is exactly what was happening to him. There's an organization that looks into this and tries to look for people. This organization is set. Their whole purpose is to look at who is targeting members of the LGBT. So you can take any event. There's nothing on his timeline. There's nothing that you can see on his timeline that specifically says, I'm targeting people of the LGBT community. Now, if we go back 10 years and we find more and more activity of him doing this thing, then you have. But 2 occasions to sit there and say that this now makes him a member who's targeting the people of the LGBT community. Basically, it's just like the race. It's like the race baiters. You can always find racism in anything. We found racism in Wonder Bread. Why is it called white bread? Come on now. And everybody's living on eggshells because of the fact that we're trying to turn around. We're trying to turn around and be free and love everybody. You'll find racism anywhere. You'll find sexism anywhere. You'll find xenophobia anywhere. This is the problem, is we can't live because people are too busy looking for hate in all the wrong and specifically right places. And I say that right intentionally, and you know what I'm talking about, because they only look for the hatred on the right and never on the left. Surprising that you have so many people speaking out against Andrew Cuomo right now and the allegations of his sexual assault or assaults. But this is so annoying. This is so annoying, and you sit here where there's situations that we really need to be concerned. We're not paying attention to them because we're told to ignore where things are really bad. Because here's one. COVID vaccine. Okay, folks? Alarming images reveal how Moderna's COVID-19 vaccine can cause painful skin reactions up to 11 days after vaccination. You know, And now they're saying that evidence from trial data shows skin reactions after vaccination are common, but a very small percentage of people develop a rash around a week after the jab. Doctors say that these are easily treated, not of concern, and should not deter people from getting their second dose. No, folks. I told you yesterday about there's swelling in the glands, in the mammary glands of women who, when they go and they basically get their, what is it called? I can't remember the process when they get the breast test. I'm sorry, I have no other way to say it. Pap smear, is that what it is? But as you, I'm going to stop here because I'm just going to keep saying worse statements and I'm just going to dig myself into a hole. I'm going to stop right now. But there are concerns about this vaccine. But you're a Neanderthal if you don't want to listen to what the science says. Well, here's another one I saw. Mammogram. Thank you, mammogram. Yes, I think I said mammogram earlier, but I said pap smear. That's completely the different thing. Thank you, my wife shared it. Kid Linda and Gary, thank you for sharing that. More bad news let's get away from this. More bad news from COVID-19 sufferers. Almost half of patients experience painful swollen salivary glands after infection, study warns. The researchers say that those who caught the virus last year, they said that they studied 122 patients. You have to understand that. So if we have this that's happening with people with the disease, and they start mimicking the signs from the disease that should not happen, and it actually even becomes permanent in the vaccinations that actually happen to you. Is the vaccination really that helpful if it's so harmful to our physiology? Oh, but we can't talk about that. Pins and needles. This show may be censored because I'm asking questions about the effects. Does the collateral damage, does the negative effects outweigh? I mean, does the hope of it helping outweigh the negative effects? I don't know. You decide. I think I'm going to close this show out on that note because people are probably still stuck on me getting pap smear and mammogram all mixed up, and I'm going to faithfully enjoy my Friday and weekend because I'm not walking on pins and needles anymore. But if you really want to walk on pins and needles, Brad Staggs and Daily Mojo's up next. Enjoy them and have fun. I'm your host, Watson Prudier from Battle for Freedom, Mojo 5 Radio. I appreciate every last one of you crazy people, you crazy individuals. Take care. Don't live in fear. I'm out.